Good morning, traders. Today is Thursday, October 6th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. The title of today's episode, Can We Escape the Node of Death? Yeah. So this is something I didn't really notice until the end of the day yesterday when the market was closing. That we have this massive node of volume right here, okay? Which is the cumulative volume that's just been building up in the months past, and it's right around the 3770s area. What I believe we are currently now experiencing as a result of yesterday's trade is this is going to become a giant magnet. So I think if price tries to push away from it, it's going to get pulled back both directions, okay? And I think in the beginning, here this morning, as we're opening inside the previous day's range, the highest probability is chop. And so I think we're going to be kind of stuck in a chop zone inside this node of volume, likely for a little while. And even if we break out, I'd be afraid of any move getting much continuation, as it'll likely to get pulled back. So essentially, what am I looking at? What am I paying attention to? Well, the main focus for today, bigger picture, is going to be yesterday's high and low. Okay? As long as we're inside yesterday's range, it's likely we're going to keep getting pulled back to this node every time we try to break out above or below it. But if we can get below yesterday's low, well, then we'd be good to try to target a gap fill and monitor for continuation lower from there. Or vice versa, if we can get above yesterday's high, get above that overnight high, find some support, we can get continuation up there. But I'm just very worried that as long as we stay inside yesterday's range, we are going to be fixed like glue to this area. And it could lead to some very boring moves. There's also just the fact that yesterday in general was a very sporadic day. It was like extremely bearish first thing in the morning, then extremely bullish, then completely ran out of steam. So that's just a sign that there's, an equal number of buyers and sellers in this market that are kind of competing. So having a balancing day where we just kind of rotate around inside the previous day's range would make a lot of sense to me for that reason. So I'm staying pretty neutral and just looking to have an understanding of what the market's doing within yesterday's range. But if we break the high or the low, getting very bullish or bearish from there. Get ready for the chop. Market opens in 1 minute. So we can see if we pull back to when we were down here in June and July, this was the area where the real battle was fought, right? We had all the excess, all the fear, all the panic that took us lower. We only spent a couple days down in there, came back up, spent a few days in this range. Look at this node, right? Spent a few days in this range, tried to go higher, couldn't do it, came back down again. Spent a few more days in this range, tried to go higher, couldn't do it, came back down again. Finally found the support to break out of this range, which led to the market moving higher. So this node has just historically been very strong support resistance. And that is why I think it's going to act as such now. All right, the market's open. All right, pushing up into the first resistance above. Do we just chop right back down through the opening price? Jabril Foxworth. Boy, that's a cool name. Welcome, Jabril. All right, pushing through that first resistance. All right, never mind. So much for pushing through. So now the question is, does halfback act as support to come up and take another poke? Or do they pull back down to the opening price? Got a weak high and a weak low. Only bids at the low, only asks at the high. Scooball, if you look at the daily candlestick chart, yesterday looks like a test of the balance area high. Yeah, I agree. No, I called that at the end of the day yesterday. Remember I said how shocked I was that I didn't notice that in real time? But I still feel the way I feel. To get bullish on a breakout on continuation higher, I'm going to have to see them get above yesterday's high and find support. We don't have value overlapping to higher yesterday. We don't have a higher low yesterday. So right now, this just feels more like uncertainty to me, more like balance. But if they get above yesterday's high, I'll jump on the bull train. Invictus, we closed below the close of the previous day yesterday. The bulls had an opportunity to close strong, and they failed. We closed below the close of the previous day. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, that's what I felt at the end of the day. The people that were watching the live stream remember I was expecting the market to stay up in the spike. So when in just the last few minutes of the day in the murder bot, we pulled back down into this node, I instantly was like, no, that changes everything. That means we don't have the momentum. The spike up would have been the sign of the momentum. Okay, testing that half back for support. Can we bring in the buyers for another poke at the resistance as the chop continues? Ivan says the murder bot caught me. That's what the murder bot do. That's what the murder bot do best. It gets you all excited. You're up in a spike. You're thinking this is going to be one of those murder bots that just melts people's face off and just takes the market higher. And you're like, yeah, I'll just put on a little bit more risk, just a little bit for murder bot. And then right back down. Okay, through the first resistance. Next, I'm looking for it around 3,800. Screwball support at the base of the spike. If the market closed below the spike is bullish. If the market closed below the spike is bullish. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, if we can get above and find support there? Yeah, but I still think they got to get through all this resistance, man. You know? And we're in a chop zone, so all it'll take is that one little smack, and boom, we're right back down. So I just got to see them get through it before they'll really get me bullish. But yeah, getting back up into the base of the spike, finding support would be a little bit bullish. But look at that 45-degree angle from the high. Well, there you have it. Screwball, your support at the base of the spike. They got up here on weakness, though. Low volume node. We got short covering. So you're thinking to yourself, you're saying, self, I'm so bullish. Why don't I just get long here? Why don't I just get long looking for the breakout now? Why do I wait for the market to push above yesterday's high and come back down and find support? I mean, I'll be leaving, 10 points on the table if I do that. Well, think about how much different the market-generated information would look at that moment. What does it look like right now? We're still inside the previous day's range. We're still inside the overnight range. We haven't really had a good pullback to look for support. We have value inside the previous day's value over and over and over again. This is saying chop. It's saying balance. It's saying rotation, right? But now let's imagine it worked its way up above yesterday's high and it started finding some support up there. Well, then all of a sudden we'd have a higher high and a higher low on the daily. We'd have value overlapping to higher. We'd have support at the previous day's high. We'd suddenly be starting to stack up bullish sentiment that can give us confirmation that the market's going to go higher. So wouldn't you rather get into a long up here with all the market information agreeing with you rather than get in down here at a guess when the market information is telling you you don't know? You have no clue what it's going to do. Food for thought. I wasn't talking to you, Scooball. I was just talking to the general. I understand the way FOMO works, and I know this high right here is right where all the FOMO traders are going to start going nuts. And so I'm trying to explain to them that you don't just jump in because you feel like it's going to go higher. And that's the beauty of the market-generated information. It stops you from FOMOing because you go, wait a minute, we don't have the signals for breakout yet. So either you're looking to short to grab some of the pullback, or you're waiting to go long in support, or you're just watching and waiting for more information rather than FOMOing into a long at the high. Scuba says agree, but if the support at the base of the spike holds, it's bullish. I'll agree with you. It's bullish. It's not bullish enough for me to turn a banner green, though. Okay, so now we're looking to backfill that low volume node with only 169 contracts, which is right on top of halfback. So we're looking for support in here. If it can hold, another poke up at the high. If it fails, if say 37.90 fails, we're heading back down through the open as the chop will continue. Fighter Pilot, thank you for the plug, brother. He says, for someone watching in the beginning of their trading journey, get Charles's e-course, and you'll have a real good understanding of what he just explained. It's true. It's a true statement. All right, there's the backfill low volume node. So do we get some support here? Let's look for a bounce in the ticks. Chilling with Dylan. I'm thinking about buying my brother the course. If you bought yourself the course, I don't know if you did, but if you did, just give him your password. I don't care. It's your brother. I mean, don't do it with random strangers, but if you want to share it with your brother, go for it. All right, so they have the ticks. They're heading back up to make another poke at that resistance. So the question is now, does that previous support become resistance? RK, big lesson alert. Don't wait for entries and exits. Use limit orders at support and resistance levels because you don't have the speed or emotional fortitude to make the decision in the moment. Speak for yourself. I do. That's the whole way I trade. I plan what I'm going to do before the market gets there so that when it gets there and I see what I want to see, I can just immediately take action without having to have any hesitation or reservation. You know what I mean? So if I know that if the market can work its way above yesterday's high and come back down and find support, I want to go long. The second I see support, without hesitation, I smash that buy button and I get long. I have the emotional fortitude. What I don't have the emotional fortitude is guessing here and then dealing with the pain for 2 hours while it chops and chops and chops and chops before it finally gets up there. That I do not have the emotional fortitude for. Chris. I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. Once your trade idea is established, you can use limit orders. All right. Well, that previous support that became resistance up at 38.03 is holding. So we're back down to test the support here at the halfback once again. That's what a choppy market do. Can we go up? Nope. Okay, let's go down. Can't go down? Okay, cool. Let's go up. Wait, we can't go up? Okay, let's go down. What's that? Okay, we'll go down. No, back up. John Fletcher, I recommend the books Mind Over Markets and Markets in Profile. I agree. Those are both great. All right, well, that support breaking means we're likely to head back through the opening price. We chopped it up. Now we got to chop it down. Novice trader, I think you should write something based on your course. I bet it would be a hit. Yeah, no, the problem is I'm dyslexic, so I'm best. My skills are best used talking rather than writing things down. Chilling with Dylan. No, I did not see that article. I'll have to check it out. 30 million in call options. What is that compared to the norm? Is that significantly higher or just a little bit higher? Or? Oh, it was all one big buyer. Oh, interesting. Somebody's taking a bet. George Soros. I'm just kidding. The article states it was a reason for the V-shaped reversal. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I was thinking about it last night, and I was so baffled by what happened yesterday, by the fact that we didn't actually test the balance area high or fill the gap, and we had that powerful of a reversal. And my guess was that it would have been the bigger. Okay, well, no support right there at 74. So next support, 37.68-ish. My guess was that maybe they were layered in. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe the big players were just kind of trying to buy the market, looking for the liquidity of the gap fill. And that was all it took, was the first bit of it. And so it would make sense that it was just one big buyer created that momentum. But they left the gap behind. They should have known better. All right, getting down towards the bottom of the note of death here, looking for support. Mark, why would somebody bet 30 million contracts? That's significantly more than representing of $30 million. If the market is random, because that's their job. Mark, I don't know why you're so fixated on this idea that if the market is random, it means you can't make money off of it. You can make money off of a random market. You just make bets and you use risk management. So for whoever bought the market yesterday, their bet was they think the low is in, at least short term, and it's going to go higher. And, their 30 million contracts is an amount they can risk. Obviously, they're very, very wealthy. So that's fine. They don't have to have insider information. They can just be making a bet like the rest of us. Patrick, 400 billion? Is that what it takes? 400 billion? Jesus. Well, that depends on the brokerage, right? Hedge funds don't go through brokerages that require massive amounts of liquidity. Designed up. Pappy's got 400 billion in his closet. If Pappy is the Federal Reserve, they do. Yeah. I mean, there's hedge funds that could do that, but that's a huge bet. Scalping strategy, 30 million. I'll hire Charles. Yeah, if you have 30 million to trade with, I will sit next to you and we'll just trade together. RK, the trade included buying 20,000 S&P 500 calls expiring in October with a strike price of 4,500. Huh. Who's the market maker on the other side of that, though? They're going to have to short the futures to keep the market down. They're going to have to stop the market from getting above 4,500 by October. Sounds like it's fuel for chop to me. Oh, okay. It was a $31 million purchase of 82,000 contracts. Oh, okay. Well, then that's not as big a deal. Kem said it's a well-known whale, but not Soros or ICANN. Well, we'll have to wait and see. We'll find out in 6 months when they go on CNBC and tell everyone. Corbin. Well, then you know it's reliable. All right, so we're starting to break through this last support we have here before testing the overnight low. Testing the overnight low sets us up for new sellers to start to pile onto the market. So I would say if we push below 37.64 and we find some new sellers down there, get some resistance at the overnight low, I would look to head down to test or pretty much to repair the week low we left behind at 37.47. But remember, I am of the opinion that the further we push away from the node of death, the more likely we are to pull back once we find support. So resistance here, looks for a move to repair this, and then we see what happens. Do we get support and come right back up? Because we very well could. Now, if we don't get support, then we start talking about the gap fill. But this is still a chop zone. No doubt about it. Mark, fill the gap if below yesterday's low. Yeah. If we get back down below yesterday's low, we're definitely going to fill that gap. But it's a giant if. Yeah, I saw that chilling with Dylan. They're making an inverse Kramer ETF. But they're also, to be fair, making a long Kramer ETF. So they're making both. But it will be so embarrassing for him when the performance of the inverse is so much better than the long. The proof will be in a chart. I still love him as a television personality, though. All right, so there's the break of that overnight low. So now we're looking for resistance. I mean, the ticks are already oversold here, but we're looking for them to stay below the zero line. If new sellers are going to continue to pile on here. Arthur, the market's jumped up and now going down. Thank you for the report. Scalping strategy. Charles, you hardly mentioned the value area. Is there any reason for that? There's two ways I use value. The first way is on the daily, so when I'm trying to figure out what the market is doing bigger picture, I use the value area, and then I'm using it in relation to previous day's value. So for example, this morning, the reason I was so sure we were going to get chop was because the value engulfed the previous day's value yesterday. And that's a sign the market needs to go sideways, right? It's a sign there's indecision in the market. So you'll hear me talk about it first thing in the morning when I'm kind of looking big picture at what's happening within the day. And then you'll hear me talk about it when it moves, when something substantial happens. So if, for example, the market were to push lower and it would then pull the value area to being overlapping to lower than yesterday's value, well, at that moment, it would catch my attention. And then if we're rotational, if once we get cessation of one time framing, then I look at it as an area to start looking for trades above or below. But the rest of the time, I don't pay any attention to it at all. Michael, so I want to jump on this downtrend, but my experience with intraday trend chasing are not good for the most part. Yes, I think this is a terrible time to jump on a downtrend trade. So what you were looking for to happen was for resistance at the overnight low, and we did not get that. So that tells us the market is still just chopping. It's still just going up and down. So there is no trend either direction right now, which makes it extremely difficult to be able to know when is it going to reverse, right? It could just at any moment flip and start going back up, going back down. So in situations like this, at least the way I trade, you might be a scalper who's trading on a much shorter time frame than me, but the way I trade, it's best to just sit back and wait. Wait till the market tells you what it's doing. Anything in here is just a guess. And guessing is fine for the mental exercise of it, but not risking capital. For that, you need market-generated information. All right, looks like they're building up the resistance to try to break that overnight low again. Same as before, can they get below there and build up resistance below that overnight low? Or do we just chop right back up? $777. Man, what a question out of left field. Do you think all the Russians will sell their crypto holdings? I have no idea. It's an interesting question, though. I would assume, I mean, I have no idea. You could make an argument they'd want to hold on to it in case their currency completely collapses, which it already is, but, completely collapses. They'd want to have some diversification. And for the average Joe, buying crypto would probably be the easiest way. But then again, crypto is a risk-off asset. People don't buy it when they're feeling fear and panic. So it would make logical sense for people to just sell out of fear, I will say, though, it's not looking good for Russia. Their military is getting beaten down. So it will be interesting to see how all this plays out. Kathy, what do you think of going long around here? You could go to the store and buy a lottery ticket. I think you could get long here with a low risk reward type of entry. Like you go long with a tight stop, get in here, stop down here. But you just have no idea what's your reward, right? Are you going to be able to make it back to the opening price? I don't know. So with no way of measuring what my potential reward is, it doesn't really matter whether I have a low risk entry. I suppose you could wait for a failure to find resistance at the overnight low. Like they push below, and then when they start pushing up, they get back through it. Then you could go long. Same location, better entry. Who knows? That's why I do not look for entries in CHOP. I don't waste the brain space. All I'm asking myself is, can they get below the overnight low? And if they do we find new sellers there? I like to keep it simple. Johnny, per my interpretation, what's the difference between chop and neutral? There really is no difference. It's the same thing. The difference is chop zone. I know what the market is doing. I know it's chopping, right? Like I knew ahead of time this was going to happen. This is exactly where I expected to find support. The market is behaving exactly how I would predict it to behave. I just can't trade off of it. That's chop. Neutral is I don't know what the market's doing. I have no clue. But both require me to wait for more information before I can enter a trade. Speaking of which, we're back below the overnight low. So that is bearish to head down and try to repair this weak reference at 37.4750. For confirmation, we are looking for resistance at 37.63. Arthur, who knows? I know. I know, faux show. Yo. All right, well, creating a poor low right here as we open the C period is bearish as well, as it increases the odds that we're going to push up away from the poor low, looking for resistance, but then come back and repair it. Repairing that poor low would be the beginning of one time framing lower, which would be bearish. Like I said, I don't know how much they'll get for it if they start trending lower here. I really think there's a chance we find support around 42 and turn around and come back up. But if not, if we continue lower from there, then the gap fill comes into play, 37.12, and monitor for continuation lower from there. So when they come down here, do they find support? If not, look to fill the gap. When they fill it, do they find support? If not, the next week reference, and so on and so forth. But if they find support, look for it to push back up into the node of death. If they find support when they fill the gap, look for it to push back up into the node of death. All trails, as of now, lead back to the node of death. With that, I will say goodbye. Goodbye to you. Goodbye, my friends. And I look forward to seeing you here tomorrow morning. If you're a member of the brigade, you know what time it is. Let's ride.